So if you want to see the future of global innovation, don't look at some billion-dollar glass campus in Silicon Valley.
Right, yeah. Or, a sterile, brightly lit laboratory somewhere.
Exactly. Or like a tech billionaire standing on a sleek stage in a black turtleneck. Instead, you need to look at a high school courtyard in Ho Chi Minh City on a really humid Monday morning.
I mean, just picture 2,000 teenagers in the school uniforms,
Right.
sitting shoulder to shoulder with their teachers.
Yeah, and they're about to learn that they don't actually have to wait until they have a master's degree to, build a patent. Today's deep dive is going to basically shatter everything you might assume about who gets to be an innovator and where those breakthroughs actually happen.
Which is so needed because we have been completely conditioned to view innovation as this exclusive VIP club.
Oh, 100%.
We treat creativity as like a genetic lottery or a geographical privilege, something that happens far away
Yeah.
by people with massive budgets and huge legal teams.
Right. Which is exactly why we are traveling to a very different kind of setting today. So picture this. It's Monday morning, March 23rd, 2026. We are at Nguyen Huan High School, specifically in the Thu Duc area of Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah, and this massive gathering starts out as just a totally standard formal flag salute assembly.
Yeah. You stand, you sing the anthem, you hear the boring announcements for the week. But this specific assembly completely transformed into a massive open-air forum on knowledge and creativity.
And the catalyst for that whole shift was the arrival of Dr. David Nghiem. So he's the founder and director of the Talented Minds Agency, or TMA, which is based in the U.S.
Right, and he didn't just show up alone, did he?
No, he brought his whole educational advisory board, and they took the stage right there in the courtyard. And I mean, the visual contrast alone from the sources we looked at paints such a fascinating picture.
It really does.
You have this massive digital screen glowing with the image of a highly complex, intricate, high-tech microchip, right?
Yeah.
And it's set directly against the backdrop of a traditional Vietnamese high school with its tiled roofs and these big, mature trees.
It's literally a collision of two worlds. And TMA brought these guiding slogans to the event that really anchor what we're talking about today. The banners read, let me check my notes, igniting creativity and lighting the fire of dreams from simple things.
Yeah, that part about simple things.
Exactly. That idea of starting from simple things is just a massive departure from how we usually talk about technology.
It is. It fundamentally shifts the entire paradigm of education. Because Dr. Nghiem was there to demonstrate that knowledge cannot just be, some abstract theory trapped in a textbook.
Yeah.
It has to connect to practical reality.
Right. He's looking at 2,000 high school students and telling them that creativity isn't some fun elective you take on Tuesdays. It is like the absolute core competency of the modern economy.
But delivering that kind of heavy message to a crowd of teenagers on a Monday morning, that is a high-wire act.
Oh, totally. If you start giving a dry academic lecture about market competencies, the glossy eyes are going to sweep across that courtyard in 30 seconds flat.
You lose them entirely.
Yeah. So how did he avoid that?
Well, he deliberately avoided any academic stiffness. He built his entire presentation around these really simple, relatable, real-world stories.
And one of the first stories he shared is a genuine curveball. He told the audience about his own son, who achieved something that, frankly, most engineers spend their entire careers chasing. He secured a patent.
Yeah.
And he did it at just over 14 years old.
14. I mean, it is really difficult to overstate how unusual that is in the traditional tech ecosystem.
I'll be honest, when I was first looking over that detail in our sources, my immediate reaction was just a heavy dose of skepticism.
Oh, sure. How so?
Well, if I'm a normal 15-year-old student sitting in that courtyard, hearing about a 14-year-old getting a patent almost feels like discouraging. You sit there and think, well, his dad is a tech founder who runs an agency called Talented Minds. Of course he got a patent.
Right, like he had a golden ticket.
Exactly. You assume he probably has a team of lawyers doing all the paperwork. That has absolutely nothing to do with my reality.
And that instinct to find an excuse for why someone else's success doesn't apply to you, that is just universally human. But we really have to look at the mechanics of why Dr. Nghiem used that specific example.
Okay, well, lay it on me.
It wasn't to boast, and it certainly wasn't to establish some unattainable standard. He was targeting a very specific psychological block in those students' minds. The barrier of age.
Oh, I see. Because society constantly tells teenagers they are in the learning phase, right? The doing phase is supposed to happen a decade later.
Exactly. And Dr. Nghiem is telling them the doing phase starts today. Because the real mechanism behind securing a patent isn't about having a PhD.
Right.
Let's think about what filing a patent actually requires. It is a grueling, totally unglamorous process. You have to map out every single prior invention in that space.
So much paperwork.
So much. You have to meticulously document your iterations. You have to face rejection from patent examiners who tell you your idea isn't novel enough, and then you have to revise and submit it all over again.
So it's not just a magical flash of genius in the shower, it's arguing with bureaucrats.
Which means the actual ingredients for inventing something aren't status or age. The ingredients are an initial spark of curiosity, the daring to try something unusual, and just an immense amount of perseverance. You have to follow a tiny idea all the way through a very boring, rigorous process.
So he was proving that a 14-year-old possesses the necessary psychological grit to survive that process.
Exactly.
Okay, so if the barrier to entry isn't age or a fancy degree and I just need grit, where do I even start looking for an idea? Because honestly, a patent still sounds intimidating.
Oh, for sure.
But Dr. Nghiem grounded this by pointing to something every single teenager in that courtyard understands intuitively. The smartphone.
Yeah, a device that is likely in your hand or in your pocket right now as you listen to this deep dive.
He used the smartphone to explain that innovation doesn't require inventing a warp drive or a new clean energy source. Often it just means observing a small, mundane inconvenience in your daily routine.
Right.
You know, something about your phone that annoys you every single day and just refusing to accept it.
Because we are so conditioned to adapt to bad design. When an app is clunky or a physical tool doesn't work right, adults usually just sigh and figure out a workaround.
We just accept the pain.
We do. Teenagers, however, are deeply observant, and they haven't yet been entirely ground down by the status quo.
That's such a good point.
Innovation is often just a byproduct of a refusal to accept an everyday annoyance. It's the person who finally asks, wait, why does this have to work this way?
So if I don't need a PhD and I don't need a world-altering concept, I basically just need a notebook and a really low tolerance for annoying design flaws. That feels incredibly accessible.
It really does.
But observing a smartphone from the comfort of a couch is one thing. Solving complex, high-stakes problems is another. And Dr. Nghem's next story showed that finding the right problem often requires stepping entirely out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, this introduces empathy as a hard engineering constraint rather than just like a soft skill.
Which is fascinating. He talked about his work in a coal mine in Quang Ninh. So instead of staying in a comfortable office in the US or some pristine lab analyzing data on a flat screen, he physically went down into the harsh, dangerous environment where these miners work every single day.
He needed to experience the physical, visceral reality of that exact space.
And that resulted in him designing a highly effective antenna system specifically for those mines. It's a system that drastically shortens the time it takes to detect incidents underground, which massively improves worker safety.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But I do struggle with the physical necessity of this a little bit. Like, why is dirty physical immersion so critical for a seasoned tech founder? Couldn't a team of engineers just send him a brief about the communication lag, give him the dimensions of the mine, and let him design the antenna from a clean disk?
You would think so, right? But you cannot design for an extreme environment through a spreadsheet. Just think about the physics and the sensory realities of a coal mine.
Okay.
Radio waves behave completely differently when they are bouncing off jagged, uneven anthracite coal compared to how they travel in an open, flat laboratory.
Yeah.
And the dust coats every single surface, getting into exposed circuitry.
Oh, wow. So the environment actively fights the technology.
Exactly. And furthermore, think about the end user. A miner is wearing heavy protective gear, thick Kevlar gloves, working in near total darkness, often in these really confined claustrophobic spaces. If you design an elegant touchscreen interface or a device with tiny delicate buttons in a sterile lab, it will be completely useless to a miner who can't even feel the buttons through their gloves. You can only design a lifeline for that environment if you have physically felt the constraints of it yourself.
That makes total sense. You actually have to breathe the dust to understand why the equipment is failing in the first place.
And this connects directly to the environment where he was speaking. If you look at the source materials, hanging in that high school courtyard, visible right above the stage, was a large red banner listing the core virtues being taught to those students.
Right. It was patriotism, compassion, hard work, honesty, and responsibility.
Yes. Dr. Nghem's time in the coal mine perfectly embodies compassion and responsibility. True innovation doesn't come from a desire to just build a shiny gadget or, secure a quick round of venture capital funding. It requires looking at a group of people facing a real danger and feeling a sense of responsibility to help them. Empathy drives the engineering. His antenna was a testament to the idea that creativity must be tied to social responsibility. It has to provide real-world value to real people.
That is a massive paradigm shift for a teenager. We are moving from memorize this formula for a standardized test to immerse yourself in a real human struggle and build a physical solution.
It's completely different.
But let's look at the practical reality of this for a moment. Having a compassionate idea or the observant mindset of a 14-year-old is a great starting point. But the execution phase is notoriously brutal.
Oh, absolutely.
How does a 16-year-old student actually cross the bridge from, hey, I have a great idea for an antenna, to here is a physical product that works and is ready to sell? High schools don't exactly have manufacturing capital or a legal team on retainer.
Right, because inspiration without infrastructure is just daydreaming. But Dr. Nghiem didn't just fly in to give a motivational speech and then leave. The event was actually the launch pad for a tangible solution, the TMA Creativity Program.
Okay, so this is where it goes from theory to reality.
Exactly. It is an ecosystem designed specifically to dismantle the bottlenecks that a teenager faces. It's built for young people who have viable, commercializable ideas, but totally lack the roadmap to execute them.
And the level of support this program offers is staggering for a high school setting. It is literally an end-to-end support system.
Yeah, it's not just a weekend workshop.
No. TMA commits to helping students from the very first sketch on a crumpled piece of paper all the way to getting a finished product onto the market. That includes professional mentorship to navigate the actual prototyping and development phase.
And it also includes the legal labyrinth we discussed earlier. They actually provide assistance with patent registration.
Which is huge. I mean, imagine being a junior in high school and having a professional agency help you prove the novelty of your invention to a federal patent office.
It's unheard of.
And it doesn't even stop there. The program even offers strategies for expanding these products into international markets, dealing with global supply chains.
This represents a complete revolution in the educational model. Traditional education is largely just a passive intake of facts. You sit in a chair, you listen, you memorize, and you regurgitate that information onto a test.
Right.
But the TMA Creativity Program transforms the school into an incubator. It shifts the dynamic from passive intake to active creation, giving students a sustainable roadmap to bring those ideas to life.
It's basically the difference between reading a textbook about how electricity works and being handed the raw wires, a soldering iron, and the capital to build a circuit that actually lights up your own house.
Yeah, it takes them out of the theoretical sandbox and gives them real bricks and mortar to build with.
It fundamentally changes the student from a spectator into an active participant in the economy.
Completely.
But, I mean, even with an incubator, the journey to international markets or dealing with patent offices is still fraught with failure. Rejection is basically guaranteed.
Oh, it's baked into the process.
Right. You don't just sketch something on a napkin, hand it to a mentor, and wake up a millionaire. So how did Dr. Nghiem prepare these teenagers for the inevitable moments when a prototype fails for the 10th time or a patent is just flat out rejected?
He addressed that reality head on. And during a very quiet, reflective moment of the assembly, he delivered a message that serves as like a guiding philosophy for this entire endeavor.
What did you say?
He told the students, even if our circumstances differ, even if there are many difficulties out there, sometimes you have to go very slowly, but opportunities will come to those who do not give up.
Sometimes you have to go very slowly. Wow.
It is a really radical piece of advice to give a young person today.
Especially in our current culture. We live in an era entirely obsessed with overnight viral success. A teenager opens social media and is immediately bombarded with 30 under 30 lists or influencers claiming they built a multi-million-dollar app over a weekend in their dorm room.
Yeah, it creates this immense toxic pressure.
There's a pervasive feeling that if you haven't secured seed funding and gone viral by age 20, you are already a failure.
And that culture of frantic haste creates fragile products, and honestly, it burns out the creators before they even really begin. So Dr. Nghiem is explicitly decoupling speed from success.
For a successful international founder to stand on that stage and give these students permission to go very slowly is incredibly comforting. It sort of strips away the panic of the ticking clock.
Because true problem solving takes deep thought and rigorous testing. Designing a life-saving antenna for a coal mine cannot be rushed for a TikTok trend. It requires trial, error, and a real acceptance of failure. His message establishes a permanent principle for maturity. Consistency will always outperform speed. The only way you truly lose is if you just stop walking entirely.
As long as you maintain momentum, no matter how slow, the opportunity remains alive. It's like an updated version of the tortoise and the hare for the startup generation.
Exactly. And he actually backed up that philosophy with action. The event closed with the awarding of scholarships to the students.
Which is so important because words and philosophies are inspiring, sure, but physical resources are empowering.
Yes. And when you view these scholarships through the lens of the TMA Creativity Program, they clearly aren't just standard rewards for getting an A on a math test.
No, there's something else entirely.
They function as a form of early-stage trust. When a professional entity invests resources into a student after an entire morning dedicated to innovation, it operates much like seed funding.
It's the adults in the room saying, we believe in your capacity to build the future, and here is the literal fuel to help you go the distance, even if that distance takes years to cover.
Right.
It reinforces the core idea that education shouldn't just trap you in a classroom. Its ultimate purpose is to give you the mental and financial tools to open doors and change the world on the other side.
That morning, on March 23rd, was definitely a milestone. It wasn't just a fun break from regular classes. It was the deliberate planting of creative seeds in the minds of nearly 2,000 students.
And with time and with the infrastructure of the TMA program supporting them, those seeds are going to germinate. A morning that started with a simple flag salute has the real potential to awaken an idea that could eventually shape an entire industry.
It really does.
So let's bring all this home. We started by picturing this exclusive, walled-off version of innovation, the myth that you need to be in Silicon Valley with a massive budget to create something meaningful.
The Velvet Rope Myth.
Exactly. But this deep dive into Dr. Nghem's presentation at Nghiem High School completely flips that script. We've learned that the barrier to entry isn't a PhD. It's the psychological grit and curiosity of a 14-year-old navigating a boring patent process.
Right.
We've learned that inspiration doesn't always come from a pristine lab. Sometimes it requires immersing yourself in the dirty, dangerous reality of a Kwangnin coal mine, because empathy and social responsibility are actual engineering requirements.
And we've also seen that the massive gap between a fleeting idea and a physical product can actually be systematically bridged when you have a supportive infrastructure,
Right.
one that handles the heavy lifting of mentorship and legal navigation.
Right.
But above all, I think we've learned the power of relentless perseverance. You have permission to go slowly as long as you refuse to quit.
It just completely reframes how we should look at our own potential to build things.
It really does. Which actually brings us to a final thought for you to consider today. We've talked heavily about the power of active observation and looking at everyday items, like your smartphone. So think about your own day right now. From the moment you woke up to this very second, what is one tiny, frustrating, annoying inconvenience in your daily routine that you have simply accepted as just the way things are?
Oh man, we all have one. That jagged little design flaw you mutter under your breath about every single morning.
Exactly. What if, instead of ignoring it, instead of just adapting to that mild frustration, you treated that exact annoyance as the blueprint for your very first patent? What if the only thing standing between you and a massive breakthrough isn't a master's degree or a sterile lab, but just your decision to finally stop ignoring the problem?
That annoying inconvenience could be your ticket in. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep observing, keep questioning the world around you, and remember, even if you have to go very slowly, just don't give up.